Right, we're ready for some practice dealing with variables. So, we're going to go through several bubbles on code.org today and just practice everything that we've learned so far, get some good experience so that we're ready for tomorrow's lesson, which is the make. So, a quick recap for debugging that you have access to now in code.org. So, specific things that you'll use today, the speed slider down here. This is a great way to kind of slow down your code if you want to watch it run step by step and see where a problem might be happening. Use the console log to get output, especially if you're concatenating something and you want to make sure that it concatenates in the right way before you try to display it on the screen. You can pull over a console log command and concatenate it there and make sure it's going to do what you want. Also, the watchers down here at the bottom corner. This is for all of your variables so that you can see how they're changing as you run through the program and see if there might be a problem in that area. So you're going to go ahead and go to code.org and start with bubble 2. Bubbles 2 and 3 are, sorry, that's not it. Bubbles 2 and 3 are mostly using the console log commands, which just prints those commands down on the debug console. Some things to remember. You want to use the watch area to track how your variables are changing over the course of the program. And level 3 specifically is very heavy on debugging in order to help you understand correct syntax. Syntax has to do with whether things should be capitalized, should there be a space, should there be quotes, should there be a semicolon. So we're just getting a little bit more practice at that so that you make sure that you're always going to be naming your variables in the correct way. As you work on code.org, make sure that you clearly read all of the instructions up here at the top. Sometimes they have some really good hints to help you get done whatever needs to be done on a specific level. Also, make sure you're using the watchers down here at the bottom. You can call any variable that you have in your program and have it watch the value of that variable change as you run through the program. Bubbles 4 through 8, you're going to transition from console log only to apps that have interfaces, and you're trying to actually print things to the app, to the screen of the app itself. Notice here, here's a clue right here. You may find it easier to switch to text mode. So again, they're going to give you little hints. Make sure you're reading the instructions. On Bubble 6, you are introduced to the new line character, which is a backslash and an N next to each other, and that helps you to break up a string into multiple lines. You can see it right here that you just add backs, backslash N anywhere in the string, um, and it's going to automatically put it on a new line for you. Bubble 7 and 8 are dealing with those counter patterns with numbers and strings. And just remember that you have this help and tips button up here so that you can see what kind of the starter pattern should look like for a counter pattern. So you don't have to create it all from scratch. Once you get to bubble 9, there is a video that it is helpful to watch. And this is all about the difference between global and local variables. I would suggest pausing my video, go ahead and watch the video, and then come back here and I'm just going to recap. Maybe. There we go. So some takeaways, you only use the var for a specific variable one time when you create the variable. You don't ever want to see var next to that variable anywhere else in the whole program. That's going to cause you some errors. You also don't want to create variables usually inside of an on event. You really want them to be outside and so that they are a global variable. Main differences here between global and local variables. Global variables are permanent. They can be used anywhere in your code. You usually put them at the very, very top, and then you can call them and you can change them throughout the program. If you put a variable inside of an on event, that makes it a local variable, and it can only be called and changed inside of that on event, but outside of it, it can't. It doesn't exist. Make sure that when you're debugging, if you have an error, specifically on a line that does something with a variable, you look to make sure that you don't have a second var, and that's a big clue. Now you're going to go back to bubbles 10 and 11 and keep working through those two levels and just remember the difference between the local variables and the global variables as you go through and debug those programs.